part 6. Oh, we're at the end, 6 of 6. We're doing core and conditioning today. If you haven't watched parts 1 through 5, we talk about our goals, we talk about all the other exercises that we're going to use in our DIY workouts. But today we're going to talk about core and conditioning. Before we talk about any of our core exercises, like we've done with our other videos, we're going to have to discuss the anatomy so we know what is working when we're doing our exercises. One thing is, and this is where it gets a little bit fun, people like to say core and they think abs, but actually core is your whole torso. The first one that everyone loves talking about is our rectus abdominis. It is the 6-pack or 8-pack or 12-pack, dependent on your genetics. What it does is it flexes our rib cage down towards our pelvis, almost giving us a bad posture, but it's also really good for helping crunch ourselves up or raise our hips, which is a spoiler for our first exercise. We've also got on our sides the obliques. We have internal and external. What they both do is twist and flex our core down to our sides. They also help in resisting if someone were to push into you or something were to push into you. Let's assume you're not being attacked. On our lower back and up the top of our back as well, all the way into our neck, we have our erector spinae. They run along either side of our spine, attaching up and into every single rib cage and every single spinal part of our spinal cord. Now, the erector spinae is focused on contracting our spine backwards so we get full extension. Now, the big super duper important muscle we have is your transverse abdominis. This muscle attaches from your lower spine all the way around your core to the other side of your lower spine. It wraps the entire width of your entire waist. It's this big sheet of muscle that acts as a weight belt. That's the muscle that we want to be using in every single exercise because you get more contraction if you're focusing on pulling in your transverse abdominis. Now into our first exercise. This is one of my favorites. It is a hanging knee raise. We can make it tougher into a toes to bar, but I'll talk about that in a minute. A hanging knee raise, we're going to be hanging from our pull-up bar and we're lifting our knees to our chest and lifting our hips up into the sky. The reason we have to focus on lifting our hips up into the sky is that we will actually get full contraction in our core. As you can see here, if you're just lifting up your knees up to 90 degrees, there is no core movement. We might be stabilizing a little bit, but that's more your hip flexors working to raise your legs. The real work comes when you're contracting your hips up into the sky. It is quite tough to do that. You might need to build up to that position, but the more you can raise your hips towards your chest, the more contraction you're getting in your rectus abdominis. To make it even tougher, engage your back as well, so that you're able to not just raise your hips and your knees, but also you can touch your toes up to the bar above you. Our second core exercise is also for our rectus abdominis, but our transverse abdominis as well. These two are a butterfly sit-up and a straight leg sit-up. A straight leg sit-up is slightly easier than the butterfly because you're using the weight of your legs to be able to weigh you down. It's a lot easier if, especially, we're quite top heavy. As our legs are straight, we're contracting with our rectus abdominis to flex our spine forwards and be able to reach up towards our toes. You get a little bit of a cheeky hamstring stretch in too. If you're doing the butterfly sit-up, have your feet facing each other and your knees out to the side. There is not as much weight being able to assist on the way up. Your knees are out to the side and your hip flexors can't contract fully to be able to use that weight to get you up. It is all down to your abs and core to be able to lift you up. Exercise number 3. We're going to be doing our lower back and our rectus spinae, which we were talking about earlier. With this exercise, it is a back extension. There's a lot of setup. We do have to get a box with a barbell attached to the squat rack, with the bands wrapped around that bar to be able to keep it in place. With yourself facing towards the box, we kind of control ourselves down so that our hips are on the box, but our back and upper body is free to be able to move off of this box. We let ourselves down towards the ground and all of the work comes from trying to raise our chest away from the ground. This exercise is really good for your erector spinae, but again, if you've got lower back issues, be careful with this and don't overdo it. Exercise number 4, a little bit of a different crazy amount of setup. We're doing a weighted crunch. What we've got is a sandbag on the floor with some weight to stop it from shifting back towards the machine. I've put a ab mat on top of the sandbag to really help with my lower back, to give it a lot of support. A kettlebell in front of the sandbag to attach my feet to. And we've got the rope cable attachment to hold on either side of my neck. So with the handles over our shoulders, we're going to crunch our way up and contract our spine. The focus with this is with our back being on the sandbag and on the ab mat, we are able to get a big, nice arch in our rib cage and lower back. With that big arch, with our hyperextension of our core, we're actually getting the full stretch in our rectus abdominis to be able to add more tension. Where most ab exercises, you finish flat on the floor with no tension. Here, we have tension throughout the entire range of motion, from full contraction to full extension. Exercise number 5. This is one of the exercises I see people do in the gym wrong most of the time. It is a banded twist. Now, this one is for our obliques on our side. Everything in your body is meant to be really rigid, apart from your torso. Almost like an action hero where you just, like a robot, can be turned all the way around perfectly. That's how we want to act. We're rigid, our core is the thing that turns. I grab the band with one hand and support with the other, the one that is closer to the squat rack. With my arms straight and myself back away from the band, I sturdy my legs and twist exclusively with my upper chest and torso. Try not to add your hips in, because your hips are going to just be using your leg muscles instead of getting the contraction of our rotation and turning through our obliques, which is their job. If you do this properly, you will exclusively feel this on your side. The more robotic you are, the more we're going to get out of this, and then we can go and be dynamic in other exercises. Now, those were our 5 core exercises. I hope you've enjoyed those. Do implement them in your workouts. But now we're going to quickly get into a little bit of our conditioning. When it comes to conditioning, I want to talk a little bit more about our goals again, like we did in video 1. Whether you're using running or cycling, rowing, skipping, or even just stepping up on a box, the conditioning is really important in every facet of our goals, whether it be weight loss, muscle building, or strength gain. But you're going to use them in a different way. Where during your weight loss phase, you might be wanting to use your conditioning within your workouts or outside of it, but you also want to be focusing on lower, steady intensity, like going for a long walk with a dog or a family member. But when it comes to using gym equipment for your cardio, that is going to be your focus. All of the exercises we've talked about in the previous videos are going to be the things you use for your conditioning. When it comes to the muscle building side of things, we're going to be increasing our calories to be able to put on more muscle. So we're trying to use our conditioning, such as, again, rowing, cycling, going for walks. Those forms of conditioning are going to be there to make sure that if we do spill over a little bit, seeing that we've put on a bit more body fat than we should be for the rate that we're trying to build muscle, we can kind of quell that little hint of overspill of calories and bring it back down to the baseline where we're building muscle and we're not putting on too much body fat at the same time. When it comes to strength, we want to be focusing on using heavy weights, stimulating our nervous system, going hard, and then maybe going for a light swim or chilling out and walking between a sauna. I just want to go to a swimming pool, it seems. So recover well with your conditioning, with your strength. I'm going to give you a proper example of a DIY workout. So now talking about some of the workout DIY example, I'm going to talk about our weight loss slightly more. I would choose one exercise from each of our segments that we've done. So a full body burpee, for example, our hex press, our lat pullover, a Cossack squat, our butterfly sit-ups, and also today using our rower. What I'd like you to do, get a timer, put it on for a minute, and for each exercise, do 50 seconds with 10 seconds to shift to the next one. Do a couple of rounds. See how that feels. If you're like, you know what, I can't do this for a whole 50 seconds, then break it up. Have a little bit of a rest within that 50 seconds, but keep doing attempts. You might go through it twice, do 2 rounds. You might end up getting really good and going, you know what, I know I can do a whole half hour of it, and plan yourself that you've got one of each exercise and you loop back round and do them all. Hypertrophy and strength are very similar in how I want you to train. We're going to take the exercises from each of the days and we're going to use them with the rep ranges we talked about in the first video and try to increase the weight as we go. Now, obviously in our slightly higher rep range for our muscle building, you will be increasing the weight but focusing on being able to get more of a contraction and tension, where with strength, we're just trying to see how much weight we can lift. Stimulate your nervous system and get after it. So do those days, do a legs, a back, a chest, and if you want to do the core and cardio included, I would do them at the end of a session. Now, that is the end of our series. If anything's a bit confusing, or if you're like, I have so many more questions, I want to learn more, subscribe and comment and let us know, because then we'll be able to answer the questions in later videos or hopefully get back straight to you. If you've enjoyed this series, let us know, because it'd be really great for us to know that you really liked it. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Friday. Bye, guys.